Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty interesting stuff in regards to the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 5, the cross-section of all the games, emulation, all that stuff too as well. And at the end of the day, it's actually got a little bit of a sadder news, mainly because it doesn't seem like it's fully happening. Now, we're going to be talking about this a little bit more in depth and in detail, especially now with the brand new PlayStation Plus basically details, where we had a chance to go see PS1, PS2, PS4, PS5 games, all being specifically noticed and specifically mentioned, although sadly, the PlayStation 3 still has been kind of tossed aside. And there was actually a pretty big announcement, a lot of people kind of clamoring and also being brought back up in the news, so I want to go and talk about this, talk about the issues with it, and kind of give you some of that more working details, and just how this all kind of works, and, well, why it's not going too good. Although there is always that nice little sparkle of light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to the PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 3, so we're going to go talk about that too as well. So make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Amazon links down below for the PS5 Digital Console Controller. Twitter and Twitch stream as well, link down below. Sign up for Weeble, sign up for Coinbase, sign up for all those little various links down below, and the Twitter giveaway too as well. And I appreciate you guys all so much for watching, so let's go and dive on into the video itself. So, as you guys know, the PlayStation Plus brand new features actually does specifically go and mention, and kind of is more dissuade on the PlayStation 3. The PlayStation 3 has always had its somewhat own and native architecture, which essentially just means it's just a different programming language, different internal systems that were basically built to make the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 3 games happen. And the big issue is that a lot of folks still like the old school retro style, and there actually was quite a few different games out there that were made specifically for the PlayStation 3 itself. And when it comes to video game basically preservation, and as well as also emulation, it's a little bit on the slightly different side. When it comes to video game preservation, it's more so on the focus of making sure the original source files are okay, making sure it still exists, making sure in the future we'd still be able to go access and make these types of games. Think maybe the very, very OG Nintendo platform where people were able to go and save and basically harvest, I guess, for lack of better terms, the original Mario games and original NES games and all that type of stuff, Atari games, so we could still actually go and appreciate that 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 years down the road, and as well, kind of just make sure that it still exists. And that actually was a brand new hire that actually went pretty viral throughout these past few days to go and showcase up that the PlayStation 3 still has PlayStation's big focus, although it kind of disappointed up a lot of folks out here too as well. So, I want to go give you guys a heads up. Emulation is more so allowing / say you have a computer or PlayStation 5. If you're able to go emulate and use the emulation files, you could use those same files to basically go and play the game on your PS5 or your PC. Well, on the difference, so that's kind of just you're able to utilize the software and kind of somewhat transition the software to be able to utilize in other different types of, programming languages. So think Windows, think the brand new PS4, PS5 architecture, and stuff like that. And as well, when it comes more to the video game preservation, that's more than just that. In the future, you could still go and access the files, maybe not necessarily able to be utilized on your PlayStation 5, but you just have the OG source files and OG source assets, maybe music, maybe whatever it is, maybe source code, whatever it is back in the day, and that's more so the big difference before we fully dive on in. And that's kind of what had the internet going up in storm. So we actually have some stuff that's been floating around everywhere where the PlayStation was actually making everyone pretty sad about the PlayStation 3 emulation hopes. And as I usually make on these videos, whether you guys are new or not, let me know if this is something that's a little bit more on the special side for you all. For me, I'm always someone who, in the end of the day, I'm not the biggest fan of old school games. I'm definitely more of a new age gamer. So if I want to go and spend my time, I usually prefer newer games, better graphics, as I already have my PlayStation, so I have a nicer PC, because I enjoy the nice graphics, I enjoy the nice frames, and I also enjoy something new, whether it's still Call of Duty for the 8th different time, at least to see better graphics, typically better systems, typically different types of guns, whatever it is, I usually do prefer that newer system. Now, there is definitely a lot of folks out there who do enjoy older games, so there's nothing wrong with that. I also actually support that. So basically for this one, we've actually had some pretty intriguing stuff because a lot of folks out here actually had a pretty big hype, oh my god, is it finally happening type moment, where PlayStation literally hired a senior building engineer to work within, I'll show you guys the tweet in a second for Garrett, or for basically making a brand new team, which was the newly created preservation team. So this was PlayStation themselves hiring up a bunch of pretty good talent to go and, make and preserve games, like basically so a lot of specifically on the PlayStation 3, because as we mentioned before, the PS2, PS1, PS2, PS4, and PS5 are somewhat more interchangeable and somewhat more of a basic coding language. But the PlayStation 3 was completely different because every single game was actually made slightly differently. So and that's kind of like the biggest issue still. Like, it's all this PlayStation 3 is probably one of the Sony's biggest headaches because, as I mentioned, almost every single game studio and developers had to go make completely different stuff for the game console. Everything was different. The actual architecture was different. The actual way that people built the games are different. So even in terms of, like, say, streaming through PS Now, or even trying to utilize in the brand new PS Plus, or even on top of that with PlayStation 3 emulation by itself, whether it's on PC or the PS5, it's just extremely hard to do. Where in some cases, I don't want to say it's impossible because it's pretty, like, you could, if you dedicate the manpower, the resources, and the time, you could probably make all of it happen. But the biggest struggle is just that it's really, really hard. Like, it's kind of the same comparison trying to have like something from like a Windows computer to a Mac computer. Just sometimes it's just not built the same. Sometimes the files have not been officially made for it, and it just is not always a one-to-one system. Now, things like the Xbox have been specifically made for a one-to-one, so you can play an Xbox 360 game to an Xbox Series X. So it's pretty much the same architecture for that one. And as of now, recently, most of the PS4, PS5 stuff is very similar, but that's why the PS3 has just been a massive big headache. So we had a huge freak out. Like a huge freak out when it comes to Garrett, where he actually had a chance to go and tweet out that he actually joined the senior build engineering side on PlayStation. And that went kind of viral. Like, a lot of folks were kind of the same talk of, oh my god, is it finally going to have PlayStation 3? Oh my god, are we finally going to have emulation? Oh my god, can I finally go and play and make and buy an emulator to whatever on my PlayStation Plus subscription, on my new PS Now subscription, on my PlayStation 5 just buying it by itself? And everyone was pogging. But the one issue is then for him basically saying, hey, what even is game preservation? He basically had a chance to go do a nice little TED Talk and have a chance to talk about this stuff too as well, and he's trying to more push and basically save all these games out there. And this is usually kind of a big thing because although you guys may not think it back in the, like when it comes to games back in the day, they actually are a very big cultural phenomenon. I'm sure almost every one of you guys watching this video knows about Mario, knows about Zelda, knows about, you know, a lot of these OG type games where pretty much everyone knows about it. And this is kind of a big thing because 50 years from now, 100 years from now, you want to be in the same boat. So I think also the same thing when it comes to, like, say, movie preservation, or TV shows. So how the fact that we could actually go and watch movies from, like, the 1900s, where they're doing, like, silent movies, or, like, the very first instances of, like, you know, Mickey Mouse from Disney. And this is almost, it's, like, cultural. It's a very important thing to still have access to and be able to go utilize on computers and everything else. So he is technically working in the completely different job department, which is a little bit on the sadder side. But there's actually been some really cool comments out here too as well. And I'll show you guys the original tweet, which was over this. It's kind of where it's blowing up, and a lot of articles are coming out saying, today is my first day as a senior build engineer at PlayStation, working as one of their initial hires for the newly created preservations team. And I'm sure you guys can probably see how like a brand new preservation team and Sony hiring new folks would maybe lead into this. Although the hope is not all fully lost, because even throughout all these tweets and mentions and all this stuff, he even had a chance to go and mention to himself, saying like, hey, like, it's still like kind of up in the air on how much of a role I'll have to play personally in any emulation work. But that's not a no. That's not like a, hey, now we're considering it too as well. Especially because it's only the second day. You know, at this point, maybe it's like his third or fourth day too as well, as the news has been kind of spreading around. But it's really cool to go and mention this and see this, because it does go to show that at least there is some thought process behind this. Now, if you guys want to see maybe a little bit of gameplay too as well, like even a lot of the PS3 games still ran pretty solidly. So here's just an example of like a PS3 up on top in PS5 game. Now, it's not perfection, don't get me wrong. If you guys even look and see like the lighting, the shadows, the textures, just everything throughout the game, it's not perfect. Like, you could definitely tell there's a lot more effort in the PS5 version, a lot more like flooring textures, just everything is a little bit better as well. Just like it's just bigger. It's just a bigger, better difference. Like, you even look at like the cars, you look at the backgrounds, you look at the tile textures, look at the shirt, look at everything. You know, it's like it's a pretty big difference. But even then, still, the PlayStation 3 had a lot of really big, popular games that folks out there loved. There's a lot of good games out there that I would still say are probably like properly good to go and keep and want to keep on preserving. So this is why it's been a biggest struggle, because a lot of people still do enjoy the PlayStation 3 and want to have games emulated, and I'm slowly leaning towards the fact that I want that myself, mainly because it just kind of gives more options and gives more like availability for everyone, and at least at the end of the day, it does kind of let us go and have a chance to see these games like 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now in general. Although at the end of the day, it's a little bit on the sadder side too, because it's not like the biggest, most immediate concern, although we'll keep you guys updated as we see more stuff. But at least we're seeing more game preservation and the chance for emulation still up there, although that did lead a lot of people being somewhat disappointed on the fact that, well, it's just not fully there as of yet. So I want to say I thank you guys all so much for watching, kind of give your thoughts on this one too as well, and thoughts on the big disappointment for this too, because I'm a little bit on the sadder side over there. I do appreciate you guys all so much for watching in the first place too, so make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Amazon links down below for the PS5 Digital Console controller, Twitter and Twitch stream as well, link down below, Twitter giveaway down below, Weeble Coinbase down below, and I appreciate you guys all so much. We'll see you guys all tomorrow for some more brand new videos.